has access to Chain to the Rocks in his deck. And he actually is not playing the full set of Stoke the Flames.
But yeah, Anthony's got all the 4-mana burn spells and Chain to the Rocks in the sideboard.
And we are underway here. We have Kanies start. Anthony's on the play, starts on a Battlefield Forge. No plays. Hall of Triumph is the play for Andrew. And
so it's almost certainly not the land that you want on turn 1 in the Burn Mirror. And to take 2 damage off a Pain Land to play an Eidolon of the Great Revel on turn 2, that's very aggressive, but it's like, you know, you really don't have a whole lot of options. So you just kind of have to hope that this is good.
This is a pretty dangerous mana-based situation for Anthony, I would think. So yeah, you're right. He taps 2 Battlefield Forges for Eidolon. And Eidolon is going to get Searing Blooded by Andrew, so it does some work there. I was actually going to think if Andrew keeps the Eidolon alive, like, Anthony's going to deal a lot of damage to himself this game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just one of those things where Anthony could just not play spells and keep hitting with Eidolon, and things get worse and worse for Andrew over time.
Sure. Anthony does have a 3rd land. It's Mutavault. So right now with the Mutavault and 2 Pain lands in play, he has access to his colors, but at what price? Andrew, with the same 2 lands and a Mutavault mana base, his doesn't cost any life points. And we see some pretty heavy hitting burn in both players' hands. Both looks like a Shock, a Lightning Strike, a War Leader's Helix all in Anthony's hand. And there's also a War Leader's Helix on the other side in Andrew's. So those could trade. We'll see how to break the parity, and it's going to be Chandra's Phoenix as the first attempt on Anthony's side. And is it possible to say that this may be one of the best cards, if not the best card in the
Yeah, I was going to say this is probably the best card, because if you are trading burn spells back and forth, what you really want is a consistent source of damage. And while Chandra's Phoenix can die to a burn spell, like your plan is to burn them and get it back. And if you force them to keep burning it over and over and over again, like that is less points of damage that they have going at you. So I think almost certainly like Chandra's Phoenix is the best card.
All right, Andrew's going to swing back. He activates Mutavault to swing, but that's going to get a Shock out of Anthony's hand.
And I like that play from Anthony. Like, a lot of this matchup is about trying to deal damage as quickly as possible to your opponent, but also if you're able to kill things like the first time they attack you, like a Mutavault or a Chandra's Phoenix, like that is probably worth it too, because maybe over the course of that game, the Mutavault deals you like 6 damage. So I think trading 2 damage, you know, like Anthony loses 2 damage to Andrew, but he probably gains like 6-ish life off of that Shock. So I think that's worth it.
Anthony's just going to attack and pass the turn back. Andrew is a little flooded. He has, I believe, 3 more lands. He does have Boros Charm, War Leader's Helix, Lightning Strike, and Skullcrack. So he does have a lot of damage, but he's taking a good number of points of damage off Chandra's Phoenix. I think his saving grace right now is that Anthony he has 1 mountain, but all the rest of his colored mana costs him life points.
Yeah. Yeah, so right now, Andrew has enough burn in his hand to deal Anthony the lethal amount of damage. It's just like a kind of dangerous place to be when you know the other person probably has War Leader's Helix in their deck.
Yeah, he's going to activate and go for another Mutavault swing. It's going to get hit with Lightning Strike. So talk to me about these Mutavault attacks. Andrew looks like, are these good? It certainly is a way to play it. He's forcing Anthony to spend removal spells on Andrew's lands, which is great.
Yeah, so like I said, Andrew has enough burn to, in theory, kill Anthony, but if he has a Helix, all of that it doesn't work, you know? Like, he needs to draw something else. And the same time, like, Andrew has a bunch of lands. He can afford to throw away these Mutavaults. Like, he's really in no rush to make a bunch of land drops and get a bunch of mana into play. And plus, as long as Anthony doesn't have something like Searing Blood to punish him, then trading a Mutavault for a Lightning Strike is probably something that he wants to do.
Yeah, well, ends up there, Andrew went for Boros Charm, while in response, Anthony went ahead and War Leader's Helixed him, not wanting to get that Helix skull cracked.
Yeah, and that's a good play on his part.
And will we see just a Helix come back from Andrew now? It's possible. It seems like he has to answer this Chandra's Phoenix. He's right now down 4 in the race.
Yeah, and I mean, he can switch that around with the War Leader's Helix, but again, it is that constant threat from Chandra's Phoenix. And also, if he taps out this turn to War Leader's Helix something to play around Skullcrack, then that gives Anthony free reign to fire a Mutavault and get in more free damage, so it's tough.
Yeah, you see in Anthony's hand, he has both Boros Charm and Stoke the Flames and another Helix, so 12 points of burn here.
Yeah.
He has it by a mile. Chandra's Helix will swing yet again. And it looks like Andrew's going to make the move here.
Yeah, I think at this point you have 2 options. Like, you can try to Helix and gain enough life so that the Phoenix doesn't actually kill you, or you can try and kill it.
He's going to go to kill it. He Lightning Strikes the Phoenix. Anthony passes the turn. Is he going to go for an end-step Boros Charm? If he does, he's going to get War Leader's Helix again, most likely.
Yeah.
It seems like, and he's going to do it. He's going to go for the Boros Charm. And once again, Anthony punishes him for it with War Leader's Helix.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough spot to be in where, like, maybe he doesn't have the second one and maybe you're safe to do it. I think the first one was fine because he wanted to actually start playing spells, and I don't think he could have kept open 2 mana for the entirety of the game.
And Andrew's going to War Leader's Helix back. So that puts Anthony down to 7. Andrew goes up to 8. And with a land, Andrew will be dead here. The 2 cards remaining in Anthony's hand are Stoke the Flames and Boros Charm.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't draw land, he still has Mutavault activation and everything, and he just has to hope that he doesn't die on Andrew's turn, but it looks like he has the land.
Yeah, well, without the land, Andrew has 7 points of burn in his own hand, so that actually will be lethal going the other way.
But he also needs a land.
He also needs a land, but I don't think it's going to matter. It looks like the full 8 points are just going to come in here. 4 from Boros Charm, and it's going to be 4 more from Stoke. And that'll do it. Game 1 to Anthony Avitollo. And interestingly enough, here I was keeping count. Anthony dealt himself 7 damage off his own lands that game.
Okay.
Something that's like where I would think that that's a nightmare to have to do that in a burn mirror.
And he got his creature Searing Blooded on turn 2. So
Right.
it's like, yeah, he is starting the game like down a lot of damage, but those 2 helixes made up for it.
2 helixes were huge. The fact that they never got skull cracked was huge.
Yeah, also being on the play, I think, was what allowed him to actually win. Whereas, you know, if Andrew got to untap that turn and he had lethal points in his hand if he had another land.
Yeah.
So being on the play definitely helped also.
Walking back to the match, I think the most interesting thing was the Mutavault management on Andrew's side. Like, I'm not sure it's the game. Like, what happens if Andrew just plays all the way out to 6 lands and starts casting burn spells?
Yeah, I mean, if that's your plan, is to play Helix and always both keep open your Skullcrack and like try and play around Anthony's Skullcrack, like that's certainly a reasonable way of playing it. It's tough to do that when Anthony is also hitting you with the Chandra's Phoenix at the same time. So
right, and I definitely see that. So maybe I'm not. Yeah, I do kind of. I think I like how he played the Mutavaults, but it certainly there was a chance to go a different way with it too.
Yeah,
it's interesting. All right, going to the sideboard, I have to think both players are going to do similar things. I'm going to start with Andrew's sideboard. He's down a game. He does have the one of Wild Ricochet in the sideboard. That's the first card I'm looking at. I was like very happy about that one in the matchup. So he's going to play that one. Outside of that, he has 2 Nyx Fleece Rams, which seem great for this matchup. And the question is, I don't think you really board in too much else. He has 2 Banishing Light, which is possible he wants those to get rid of Phoenixes. He already has Chain to the Rocks.
Yeah,
though.
I mean, he has an additional Chain to the Rocks in the sideboard too.
Sure.
And you see that Andrew has 2 Nyx Fleece Rams. Like, maybe he's thinking that Anthony's bringing in something similar that he would want Chain to the Rocks for. So over on Anthony's side, he has 2 Glare of Heresy, 1 Banishing Light, 3 Chain to the Rocks, 4 Boros Reckoner, 3 Standard Fire Dancer, and 2 more Eidolon of the Great Rebels. And I think Boros Reckoner is coming in. Chain to the Rocks is almost certainly coming in. And then past that, you don't have too much help, and you definitely want to take those Eidolons out. But Boros Reckoner is generally pretty good in this matchup.
I mean, Boros Reckoner has always just been like a king in red mirrors.
Yeah.
It's very like if a red deck kills Reckoner and gets 2 for 1 to buy it, they usually feel pretty fortunate that they didn't get 3 for 1. Like,
yeah, certainly.
It can be a nightmare in these matchups. One of the questions is when you're playing a burn mirror, like you don't want to cut too much burn. So how do you sideboard out cards in this matchup?
I am certainly not a burn expert, but I feel like on Anthony's side at least, the Eidolons can come out, and then, I mean, maybe you cut something like Magma Jet. I'm not even sure, but like it feels like you want the 4 mana burn spells. You want the Skullcracks for their War Leaders Helixes. Boros Charm is probably the most efficient burn spell. Searing Blood certainly very good. Lightning Strike. I think like the tension point is probably between Lightning Strike and Magma Jet, where they can both kill the creatures that matter. So it's like whether or not the extra damage is worth the scry. Yeah. But I think with Anthony having 4 Lightning Strikes and 3 Magma Jets in his deck, he is saying that Lightning Strike, like the extra damage, actually matters. Then he also has 3 Shocks, which could potentially come out. But I like having a 1 mana burn spell. Like you saw that be very good when Andrew tried to get a little frisky with that Mutavault in game 1.
I'm actually wondering if they board out cards like Stoke the Flames. I did see in that game, it seemed like both players had a Stoke in their hand that was actually pretty difficult for them to cast.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly true, but if you're trading blows with your burn opponent and your burn spells deal more damage,
that's just good.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to come out ahead. It also gives you more leeway to be able to burn their creatures and like not feel the effects of that, like not being short points to actually finish them off. So I don't know, like Stoke is certainly expensive. I know that Helix wants to stay for sure, and I feel like you would want the 4 mana 4 damage, but maybe you don't.
Well, it's like you already have 2 mana 4 damage, right? So it's not flexible. It can't go at creatures, so that might be worse. I do think, I mean, obviously, I don't think you're touching War Leader's Helix in the matchup.
No.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah, I guess we're talking about Chandra's Phoenix being maybe the best card. Maybe War Leader's Helix is, especially if you're able to navigate in a way that makes it so you don't get skull cracked.
We're underway for game 2. Andrew on the play this time. He starts out with a hand much lower to the ground. It looks like he has Chandra's Phoenix as well as some shocks and a War Leader's Helix to top everything off, which by our estimation should be a pretty good hand in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, he's got basically everything he wants. Like maybe he would prefer if those shocks were something else, but again, like it being really cheap can actually be very good if his Phoenix dies.
And Eidolon of the Great Revel is the play for Anthony.
I mean, that's really interesting, but like you look at it here, it's like he plays a creature and Andrew basically has to kill it, so it's like you traded a 1-for-1, but you got a free 2 points off of it. Like maybe that's worth it.
I mean, it certainly worked out here. Chandra's Phoenix will be the turn 3 play from Andrew, so he brings it to 18 apiece as it swings in there. Does play a Pain Land for the turn, but can use it for colorless to keep afloat. Can Anthony match Phoenix for Phoenix? He does not, but he does play a Mutavault. And Andrew's hand's looking pretty nice. He played another Battlefield Forge there. His Chandra's Phoenix is going to get Searing Blooded. If you look at the rest of his hand, he has Chain to the Rocks, Boros Charm, War Leader's Helix, Shock. So he has a removal spell and 10 points of burn.
Yeah.
And when Searing Blood is going to happen, he's going to War Leader's Helix. Is this in response to the Searing Blood?
Yeah, I mean, so I think Anthony had an interesting decision where he could have Searing Blooded on his own turn to not give Andrew the opportunity to like shock his own Phoenix and like maybe gain a life, or like gain the three life from the thing. So I like how Anthony did it, just because it meant that if you kill it on your turn, he could just like replay it. But now, yeah, I feel like with that, like he got a little ahead of himself. Andrew did with the Helix, where maybe he just wants to wait until the Searing Blood resolves, so he actually picks up the Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, it seems free to be able to do that.
Yeah, it is, but it's one of those things where he has a shock, so it probably doesn't matter. And also, he was just super excited probably by the opportunity to play Helix and not get skull cracked.
Yeah, Anthony's on his turn is just going to take the same opportunity. He makes a second Mutavault and just taps out to Helix Andrew right back. And one thing I'm liking here is both life totals are pretty high, or I'm liking on Anthony's side. Both life totals are pretty high. Anthony's trading spells here, and he has 2 Mutavaults, which makes me think if they just grind and trade each other's hands down, Anthony's probably going to be a favorite once you get to that later point.
Yeah, manlands are great for that.
We see it resolve back, so Anthony up to 18, Andrew down to 15. Remember, Andrew with a Phoenix in graveyard, though. Draws a 5th land. It's a mountain. It's not actually a bad land. It means he can shock and recast Phoenix without taking damage from himself.
Yeah, I think maybe you want to go for Boros Charm here. You end up taking a point of damage, but you use your mana more efficiently, and that might be relevant.
That's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to Boros Charm Anthony down to 14, buy back his own Phoenix. He's going to take a point of damage to do it, but then he's going to go ahead and recast Phoenix and swing. So Anthony down to 12, Andrew at 14. Andrew retakes the lead.
Very back and forth in these burn mirrors.
This is one of the few matchups where I feel like the life points accurately represent the scoreboard.
Sure.
You know, like a lot of times, I've always joked that like when I first, like my parents have occasionally watched a match that I played, and I remember my dad referred to the life totals as the scoreboard. And he's like, well, the scoreboard just doesn't make any sense in this game. You're losing, but that they all talk like sometimes you're winning. Or,
yeah.
And I'll be like, yeah, that's probably true. The scoreboard doesn't really tell you the story. But in this matchup, I think it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's 10-10, and it does look kind of close. I mean, Anthony has the 2 Mutavaults, but I think this might be a turn where he only sends 1 in. It's generally pretty nice to just use your mana to activate Mutavault and get in like those free points of damage, but since his hand has 2 Stoke the Flames, it might be time to just use 1. Like, you don't need that free damage too much because Andrew's so low, so it might be time to actually cash in the cards that you have in your hand. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and swing a Mutavault. That's going to eat a shock. I think Anthony's pretty happy with that. Any burn that's not going to his face feels like a win here. Yeah, and that's kind of telling too, right?
Yeah, the draw from Andrew that turn was Nyx Fleece Ram, a great card in this matchup. Is it, if it's in time? Not sure it still is. We'll see. Anthony goes down to 8. Andrew retakes that lead. He's going to play Nyx Fleece Ram. Passes the turn, and here comes a Stoke the Flames. Andrew goes down to 6. Anthony has another Stoke. We don't know if he has those last 2 points, though. Can he draw them? He draws Lightning Strike, and that should do it.
Yeah, he's just going for it.
Stoke and strike. No responses from Andrew. That should be good enough. He's going to shock him, but it's not enough. You're shocking him in response. Okay, and there you go. Anthony Avitollo, 2-0, wins the Red-White Burn Mirror.
Yeah, that was close. I mean, I think Anthony did a really good job of doing exactly what he had to do, where he got to sneak in the Mutavault points when it mattered. He made sure that his War Leader's Helix did not get skull cracked. He tried to skull crack Andrew when he went for Helix.
Yeah, he did. He did a great job of his War Leader's Helixes always gained 4 in this matchup. And I think, especially game 1, that was really important in the matchup.